I think this is genuinely the quickest we've ever turned it around. It was like a few people were like, I need to go to the toilet, and came and come back, and we are straight back in.
Yeah.
So there's only one place to begin, really, isn't there?
It's the most rewarding thing for if you have committed to this, to us, like fully since the beginning. What a payoff. Because I didn't piece it together. Wasps in the wall. I was like, why are there wasps in the wall?
That is why there's jam. That's not a joke. That was why there was a jar of jam. And I completely forgot before this ep that's why we were talking. We were just talking about wasps before the ep started. It might even be in the BTS. And I completely forgot. But I'd written a jar of jam in there.
Explain that.
As a joke. Okay, so in fact we should give some context. So
a lot of context.
Yeah.
So the context that you need if you are not a member of our Patreon and if you haven't listened to our extra content, Ben does a story of a character called Clark's the Broken Pebble who finds himself working alongside members of the web. And it was Ben who came up with the idea of a web-killing vigilante called the Wasp. And I thought this was a really cool idea, and about 8 weeks ago, I started talking to you about the Wasp and was like, hey, I just want to have a sense of all the characters that you're using in Clark's. Can you just run me through them? And I knew I was going to use the Wasp, but I wanted to throw you off, so I was asking you a lot about who's the name of the Gelder. I kept asking you loads of stuff about Gelder and for loads of details on different characters that Ben has written into this world, and was like, can you make sure that they just disappear for a little while? Can they disappear for a little while? I think I had a few characters that I was like, don't let them come back for a minute. Don't let them come back for a minute. And this is like a kind of payoff thing that I've been thinking of for a real long time. I need to also shout out my wife, who had the idea of, who's one of our story, who had the idea of the red ribbon with the wasps stuck. She had the idea of all the wasps stuck in.
I think that's when it all clicked for me, all of us, simultaneously.
So essentially, it's been the culmination of a few different strands, and the wasp is something that Ben originally came up with. And then the jam is because I thought when I was a kid that wasps made jam, and I told you guys about it a while ago, and then it came up again.
But why did you think wasps make jam?
Because bees make honey, and because wasps like fruit. Yeah. So yes. So
I think it's worth noting though that if you aren't a member of the Patreon, you haven't. Not at a disadvantage.
No.
You're at the same advantage as our characters.
It's extras.
I don't want you to think
example,
that like we've.
We haven't put.
You're not missing anything.
Well, we haven't put the lore behind a paywall because you rolled a dirty 20 with disadvantage, and so you got all the lore.
Yeah.
So essentially, you've missed all the delightful detail and the adventure that Ben's written, but you haven't missed the core piece of information, which is the Wasp goes after members of the web, and they kill them.
Because also, I think that whether you knew that already, that's a cool thing to learn.
Yeah.
Like suddenly, because I doubt anyone was expecting that. We were just going to get a map and then cross. That's the direct thing. This wasn't, certainly for me, I didn't expect this to be part of the journey.
No.
This was such a we were ready to go back up and do all the stuff, like, and I was like, no, Radiant loves to pick at things. And it was like that thing happened, and what a payoff.
Yeah.
And what an exciting turn of events. And I really love how even that, the beauty of Kel not being.
Yeah, you very deftly separated Kel from the pack.
So perfect.
Well, I could have very easily chosen not to.
Yeah, but I was so pleased when you decided you weren't going to go, because I was like, oh my gosh, that's even better. He's just having, I was using my jovial music, he's just having a lovely time eating the oysters of various birds.
I've written in my book the Hansel and Gretelness of it all.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, because this entire episode I felt like was us going, we need to protect him, like rallying around someone who has done so much to protect us, and that feeling of like almost we're doing the fighting on his behalf. I still don't know whether, like, I think people have their suspicions. What is the name of the
Asker?
Asker. I don't know whether Asker is the Wasp. I think the Wasp moved into the. I genuinely think the Wasp moved in and has used that. So it's going to be really interesting.
It was addressed to Yilda.
Who's the Wasp?
So, I mean, it could be that that's a pseudonym that she has. It could be a totally different person.
Well, we don't know what the Wasp looks
I mean,
like.
it's really. I wrote some Wasp.
I don't know any of this yet.
No.
So I've written some Wasp lore, which it's really worth going into. Like, Clark's is a really silly thing. It is very, very meta. It's very kind of like the whims of whatever it is that I fancy doing at the time. There is genuinely an arc about it, about what it means, and it's the idea of this individual who's following alongside the adventures of what we're going on. So every now and again, what happens in our world will also happen in his.
It's almost Life of Brian, born in the stable next to Jesus.
It is exactly.
You know, it's that.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first time. And I. The whole point is he carries a magical fish around with him called Merrywinkle, who is actually the entrapped personification of this very, very powerful being who's been trapped in the form of a fish. And it's very silly. But they're both Clark's is useless, and Merrywinkle uses Clark's power to basically use stuff and to conjure stuff. And the idea is that, can I say this about Merrywinkle? What he claimed to have done, like he claimed to do all of this stuff. He claimed to have taught the wasp everything that they knew. And so there's like some interesting ties to that and what that means and the threat. Now, whether that's true or not, Merrywinkle's a prick, so like that might not be true, but it's a very interesting thing of like, you're going to get interesting lore, these 4 to 6 minute little snippets. But I think the way that it's paced out, it was still such an interesting, for us anyway, it was exciting. But for anyone else going, this thing is terrifying. Like, I can't believe it didn't piece together. The different sizes, the different clothes.
Yeah.
There's a moment when you start going through that where I look straight down the barrel of this, and I have a moment where I go, I think I know what's going on here. And then it still didn't change the fact that when we saw the board and everything, I still was just like fully taken aback by it, even though I'd already had a thought about it. It just didn't.
The board is such a fucking...
Yeah, I love the
great.
board.
It's
That was
so
amazing.
great.
The board is when it clicked.
Yeah.
I think all of us,
It's so
everyone
brilliant,
was like,
such a brilliant idea.
Shit.
gonna have a nice dinner.
And I said that because it wasn't mine. But yeah, so we've so lots to talk to Kel about in the next episode because I'm not sure. Like, Doug now knows, but Kel doesn't know yet. Some pretty important stuff. So that's all very exciting.
It's really cool. Can I see the
Yeah, which is, here, read it out again, because I did such a bad job.
Read it out again.
Yilda, we have found you, little wasp. You who have for so long been so adept in finding us. No one can escape the silk forever. We come to you with an offer, the son of the tree speaker, for a cessation of your hunt. Make no further attacks on us, and we will give you his location. We have ways. We await your answer through the stone you took from Laertes. We need not tell you how wide we trust, nor how many eyes we see through. On behalf of the prince.
I love props. I love physical props. Also, the little affectation of that being really crumpled was the idea in my head that it was received by Yilda, then crumpled up, because I'm not having that, and then gone back to a later date. And also, if you look at the top, it is pierced as if by a large wasp stick.
Levels of detail.
Oh
that is a meat thermometer that went through that piece of paper.
Great.
So exciting. What an exciting injection of something that I didn't expect to be happening at this point. I really thought, we've been so committed to getting to the sanctum. We've been looking in front that we've never really potentially been looking behind us.
I remember one of you saying, I can't remember who it was, I feel like it might have been Aoife, but I'm not sure, saying, kind of forgetting about the web.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased because they're always trying to get you. Like, they are always trying to fuck you over. And the fact that they, that you have kind of got to a point where you're like, I think
we got away with it.
we got away with it, is a really satisfying kind of thing to draw your attention back to where you were.
Because we bought ourselves some time maybe back at, Mice, but can't have fooled them forever.
No.
No, and I think even in Mouse we said it wasn't successful.
We said, because I pretended to be Morgan, but they wouldn't have heard from Morgan for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. They would have pretty much figured out in a few days that,
I have 2 sending stones as well that lead back to them, but
enough that for you.
haven't gone off yet, so.
But it is a good reminder that it's like, you could all, the 5 of you could just split up and go live in obscurity and you'd probably be okay. And then it's like, no, because it's the web.
Yeah.
It's not everyday people that will recognise
It would
you.
actually
They
make us
actually
weaker.
would want you dead, and they really will find you. There is no trying to have a quiet life.
No.
That's it.
It shifted as an episode as well. I felt like we spent the first... We had lunch, because we have lunch.
Yeah.
And you said that we spent a large portion of time...
I think it was almost an hour before we really did anything, and I don't mean that in a bad sense. I thought it was like a really lovely, fun start to the app. But other than Dolus describing the stairs and telling you about the forgotten stair, I didn't need to look at my notes for the first hour of the app, because we've reached this, like, I've talked about it before, but we've reached this really rewarding point for me as a DM where I kind of sit back and you take the reins and role play your way through stuff, and you've all reached, I think we've all reached you seem to have reached the same point, some of you. Like Cal and Dolly are both being forced to confront or open up more about who they are, and they were the two most, if you like, intentionally closed books at the table. Elowen has had this kind of, we've discovered so much about Elowen already. I doesn't have much information to give about himself, and Radian doesn't, and Radian the same. And yet Radian's still sort of having these kind of weird visions of stuff. So what's been really nice is that rather than one character, us all kind of moving through and going, and now this is Dolly's bit, or now this is... It feels like there's sort of, because I mentioned, I can't remember when we spoke about the idea of Asker.
A long time ago now.
A long time ago, and I said, I think it would make sense that you would have... I said, you'll need a boat, and I'd like you to know the person who has the boat. Do you feel like that's a good idea? And you were like, yeah, because that's the whole point of Dolly's acquaintances, Dolly's former associates. They're a weirder bunch than the web, in a sense. They're sort of more... They'd be more widely spread out, and you'd never know when you were going to bump into them.
They could be anywhere.
But it's nice to see, obviously there are still a lot to be explained and a lot of suspicion. So I won't say, whether or not I expect things to change, but it was very nice to see Dolly with someone whose company she was really enjoying. And that was just a kind of satisfying thing we're working towards Cal, but we're also getting Dolly at the same time. And so there's this kind of multi-narrative thing going on, like more character being revealed.
I think she would have found it almost, cathartic to actually get to talk about some of the stuff before, because I don't really think she's had an opportunity to talk about it at all with anyone.
No.
I think Dolly would... Dolly's not the type of person to just sit down at the fire and start talking about this kind of thing, so...
No, but this was such a huge shift in her life that it's like, it is literally time before, time after, that she's had to just get on with since then. So it's like, it's almost... That was really a thing.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing that happened.
And it's that thing where, like, you and I know what we're talking about, but no one else does, neither listeners nor the rest of the party. So we kind of, which is really fun. Like, we can't unpack it at the moment, but it's what I really like is that the idea that in X amount of episodes, people will be able to come back and listen to that conversation with Asker and go, oh, that's what that was, and that's who that's referring to, and all this sort of stuff. Like, that's, it's the jar of jam. Like, it's lovely when you have a little nod that just kind of pays off later down the line. I loved your reaction to the Poet of Grace outfit. Whether or not you still...
Well, whether or not it's like, you see Dolly have a positive interaction with someone, but that is the nature of all of her ties pre this group is, I like that person, but how much can I really trust them? Because it's not, as much as she likes Aska, it's like, for the right amount, would she fuck me over? Maybe.
There's a reason she's got all this gold. She's
Well,
not
yeah,
silly.
and that might not be true, but Dolly would think it was. Because literally, not to get into it too much, but like, she would expect that of anyone now. Or certainly think it's possible of anyone.
What I really like And I don't know if it was intentional or something that was playing in the back of your mind. Well done for doing such great work while ill, by the way. But in the last episode, Radian reminded Dolly of all of the times she didn't run, and this is the most you've ever tried to run. And if you'd got them all to run, you never would have found that.
Yeah.
Never would have found the chart, never would have found the letter.
She really wanted to run. Really wanted to run.
And it's just lovely to have that kind of, hey, maybe I've got to a point where I don't run anymore, even though I want to. And then within 2 hours at the table, 3 hours, it's like, run. We have to run. The fear kicks. Like, you can't kick it. Like, as much as you'd love to be able to, as much as she'd love to be able to, you can't.
Thank fuck I didn't just look around. Thank fuck I opened the door before I went and had a look around.
Imagine.
Like, imagine just like going down and going, I'm just going to touch one of these wasps, and then just suddenly being on my own down there with that thing.
I really, I mean, I think you
I think I would have probably tried to disengage it.
You could have got away from
out,
it.
but
It's
like,
a lot slower than you. And I made a point of saying it lumbers, and
Yeah.
therefore it would find it quite hard to go. It would take it a while to climb the stairs. But nevertheless, sometimes it's absolutely great, you nipping around and doing stuff by yourself, but it does make you extremely vulnerable. If anything goes wrong and you'd found yourself... I mean, that thing... The Flesh Golem has an AC of 9. But I beefed up its HP and gave it an extra slam attack. So I gave it 102 HP and 3 slam attacks. It normally has 2, and it has, I think, 80 HP or something like that. It wasn't meant to be, a deadly fight.
Yeah.
It was just, it's more of a body horror moment than it is anything else.
Oh,
really.
yeah.
And something I just really enjoyed was writing the ledger of.
So
that was
horrific.
It's just really horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like I say this a lot at the moment, but we're covering lots of ground. Like, did we talk about this on Serving Cantrip, where I was like, it's like you have a point spend that you can do on every episode, where you've got lore and story, you've got character and character development, and you've got a kind of action. And if you're going to have you've got to spend all your points, so you can have a really story and lore heavy episode, and then you can kind of neglect character and action a little bit because it kind of earns it. Or you can do loads of action and kind of don't worry that you don't have too much time for lore. Yeah. And I feel like what we're kind of hitting a really lovely pattern at the moment is I feel like there's a bit of everything in every app. Like, the combat we've had combat in 2 eps in a row, which is really unusual for us. We're getting so much about character, and then the kind of world is also proving itself to be sort of in motion around you, which is very satisfying. I feel like it's maybe because we're playing so regularly as well.
We have
Like,
been
we played last
good.
week, and we're playing again on Sunday.
Yes, it's our
and
second week in a row, and we're back again next week.
yeah,
which is
and that's really
nice.
nice because I feel like everyone's warm at the table. Like, there would have been other episodes where essentially I described the road I said a road exists and you're walking on it, and then you all improv for 40 minutes. And if we'd had an 8-week gap, that might not have come so easily.
No, we would have just got there.
Yeah.
I think we would have kind of gone, let's get there, it's fine. And it's not that we just warm up in different ways, and actually we were like, this is quite fun to... It was listening to your recap that I went, we really did cover a lot of...
It's a bloody long recap. They're the hardest recaps to write, actually.
Yeah.
Because even in the fight with the Gloam at Castle Grenwyr, you can sort of be like, players fell and rose and people were killed, and it looked like someone might die and then they didn't, and then the battle ended. Whereas when you're talking about big emotional moments, like I mentioned the fact that Kelnis and Elowyn sat on a tree and talked about trees because it felt really important. I felt like I couldn't put it in there. I couldn't leave it out, and therefore those recaps of characters talking about their feelings are much more difficult, much more sort of labour-intensive to write.
You don't know what details are going to end up being important later.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We also probably had, I think, the funniest moment for us personally that we've ever had in an episode, which is whatever voice.
Whatever that was.
It is, I actually think we were completely out of control.
Do you think it might have been a mild aneurysm?
I think it might. I mean, it could have been. It could have been. We'll have to see. I'm certainly not going to operate heavy machinery for the next 24 hours.
Sam, please get all of that, the entire thing, clip it all out.
We're speaking directly to our editor.
Because that will not be a minute long. That's going to go up as its own thing on Instagram and TikTok, as long as it needs to be.
Because the beautiful thing is that you both chickened out and added to it. You
gave yourself an out and then pulled yourself right back in.
You didn't yes and, you yes but.
Yeah, it was a proper start a fight in an empty room kind of thing.
It was wonderful to watch.
Oh, good.
Oh,
I think
hilarious.
Eva cried at one point.
Yeah.
Fully. Yeah.
Sometimes it happens. It happened in a home game once that I did a bit of a silly voice for a paint salesman, and we lost 40 minutes to it. And actually, sometimes that's like we take this really seriously. We work really hard at putting the show together. We care about the way it looks, the way it sounds. We care about the quality of storytelling. We care about everything. Like, when's this going out?
This will be, I want to say off the top of my head, January 7th.
So we.
This is Action Surge, so yeah, depending.
So we've announced our merch, right?
Yes, because we'll be announcing that in the Christmas special.
Yes. So there we go. So like we work really hard at making sure that the merch is right, like and all this sort of stuff. But every now and then, it's really fun for it just to be really dumb, like really dumb and really silly, because that's also D&D.
Also our friendship as well. Like this isn't just a thing we come in and like, oh, it's a work thing, therefore you've got to be super professional at the table because it's work. We're actually friends. And actually our time spent together is more like those moments when we're just giggling.
Yeah.
And of course it'll bleed through into what we do.
We're horrible to each other in real life.
We're vile.
Really horrible to each
You
other.
saw the way they spoke to me earlier today for being sick.
Well, and also I think the thing is that this is why I love live theater, and why probably all of us who are performers especially love live theater, is because anything can happen, and you have to just roll with it. And sometimes the rolling is actually just admitting that it's all gone tits up, and we just have to take a couple lines back and start over again.
Except we didn't take a couple of lines
No,
back
we
and start over.
kept
We
going,
just kept layering
the barman.
until he finally found one that stuck.
There was a beautiful symmetry to the episode, I thought, because they both kind of happened with revelations about Kel, which was you using that pendant for the first time.
Oh my God!
That was like,
This episode is that wild.
Yeah,
crazy.
that wasn't even like you think this has got to be the crescendo and everything else will be around that. And actually, you went to remind us that it even happened.
I know. I just went, oh my God, the pendant. Because I feel like it all, and you could tell in the lead up to Mouse that it was becoming very kind of like at the time Ellie related. And then now there's just so much interesting thing. And because we've all been restrained in giving information, it is genuinely cool to be like, what are you doing? And the fact that we all know that we all harbour secrets from each other about our characters that we haven't revealed yet, that's going to have those impactful moments. And it was so satisfying because even now we don't really know what it does. And it just keeps making your character richer and richer and richer. And just by the nature of the choices that you made, staying and not being a part of that thing, it felt like the lore of Kelness is just becoming richer and richer and richer, but not in a way that feels unearned, because it's like it's been there since the beginning.
I wouldn't have had the discipline to sit on that amulet for 20 episodes. There's no way. I know what I'm like as a player. I'm so excited to work, like to do my backstory as a player. Like I get really giddy about the thought of being like, oh, this will happen, and then invariably I go, oh, but by the way, everyone, here's everything about me, and then
gun to my head.
and realize like 6 eps in, I've got nowhere to go. I would not have been able to sit on that amulet for.
I'm almost sad that I did reveal it though, because in this episode at least, it didn't really go anywhere. It's been revealed, but it didn't have any real purpose to the action of what happened.
What does the letter say?
I mean, it will eventually, but...
No, I like it because I think it's just about building out Kelness as a character, and not everything has to be that you learn something because it's the height of the episode, it's the peak of the moment. Like, we can just be learning things along the way. And actually, I think story-wise, it was great that actually, you know what, it lasted about 20 minutes. It wasn't totally infallible. Yeah. Otherwise, it almost feels like, God, we're just going to be cheating.
Well, I also like that we called you out for not having used it before, because, like, we're, like, having you disguised... I mean, also, you're a druid, so you could wild shape also. But, you know... but, like...
You could just be someone's dog by their side and walk into a town as someone's dog. I didn't think about a spider and go inside someone's pocket and then...
get squished.
You're so interesting in the way that, like, you you say you're disappointed. I can't tell, like, as a person who says that was narratively satisfying.
Great.
It was so beautiful because what it led to was you revealing so much more about your relationship with your past, where it came from.
Yeah.
We learn more about you.
Yeah.
The using of it will happen further down the line. The further payoff. But it was
But
like most great storytelling. It's like a tease, and it's like it doesn't need to go anywhere. You just go, who is this person? And Kel is so mysterious.
Yeah, he really is.
And it's so cool, and I'm so excited that we're still at this point, like revealing things about ourselves.
Yeah.
that we didn't.
20 episodes
There were
in.
20 episodes.
It's a weird one as well because there's an aspect to that letter, and I don't want to
Yeah.
give anything away, and I don't know if it already has been given away, but there's an aspect of that letter that has been revealed in the past, but I think that it's been revealed only to Cal.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
players in this room were
Yes.
witness to the revelation.
And I think they've pretty much all forgotten, which is
No,
which works
Yeah.
very well. Okay. Some people have forgotten.
I think
But players who, audience.
The audience now,
Who
the
have been
audience are now
watching, who
ahead
have
of the
been paying
players.
attention.
The audience are
may
ahead of
draw
all the players.
Draw the connection.
Yeah,
And
because the audience know what Kel knows, but Kel doesn't know it yet. And then the audience understand the significance of what the players know. The other players know, but the other players don't know it yet.
yeah,
So it's
I love that.
it's
I think
really
that's
great.
wonderful.
It's really
Also exciting to play the difference, and it is a real joy, and it does take restraint of you as a player knowing, but what your character doesn't, and the kind of joy of being able to go, I know this information is Ben, but Radian doesn't know this information, or with all of that stuff, and it's kind of cool.
Some of
Because
my favorite points are when the party's split, for example, and shit's kicking off in one half, and the other half are like just blissfully unaware of it.
Yeah.
Like, I like playing up to that. I think that's really fun.
we've done it quite a lot recently. Like when Elowyn and Dolly went to see Fable and the towers and the murmurs, and the rest of you were drinking and being sick.
Oh, I wasn't staying with them.
But it's really nice to have that. I think it also takes a lot of confidence as players to split a party in that way. It also shows that the characters are trusting each other so much more. That the characters aren't like the only way we can do everything is if we've got everyone.
Yeah.
It's interesting because that in my brain I was thinking a lot of the interesting stuff has happened. Like so much interesting stuff happens when we split. So thinking. When we're making a plan, all right, well, what if I hide in this knapsack, and we go in that way and you do that? And then later on, okay, well, what if I try and split, like, okay, I'll go and find an apothecary, things like that. And then all of that, like, I literally went, okay, what if I try that? No, it's not going to happen. No. And then the one where it happened purely on accident is so fucking narratively satisfying.
Which one?
Kel being on his own,
Yeah.
up at the house, like eating, and us having no idea. Do you know what I mean? That moment.
Well, you two were almost just you two.
Yeah.
We weren't. We were just going to be standing watch, and then we were both
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you know what? They're making so much noise. We'll move forward."
Yeah.
yeah,
But we weren't going to join you. I mean, the two of you in that house.
Yeah. What's funny, I'm not much of a trapdoor, secret wall, carpet rolled over DM, and actually it's quite fun to do it sometimes. To do like, it's not a dungeon crawl by
No.
any stretch of the imagination, but things that you pull out and walls disappear and flagstone floors
Just
and
need it sometimes.
The dice want to tell a story though, because that was only because I got high on investigation.
you got
checks.
nat 20.
Yeah,
You got
and
nat.
the wasp thing is entirely because I got nat 20.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we probably would have just gone, oh great, and then
Is there a world in your mind, Harry? Is there a world where none of that was discovered?
Yes, absolutely. And there's a world in which then the task becomes, okay, we couldn't find Aska's chart. Maybe, you'd know Chiron. Chiron's a fisherman.
that was my plan.
Chiron had a
that was
Chiron
my-
had a
my
chart.
thought too.
Chiron would have a chart. Most of the fishermen would have charts. You could get a chart from. I'll tell you what you could have done. Dolus could have tried to steal a chart from Readiness because the Legion would have charts. There are other ways of doing it. This was the cleanest way of doing it. Is finding the chart there, and it's the most narratively satisfying. But with all these things, there's a. I don't ever really do like B plots or like go scenario B. I don't
Just
really do B
wasp plots.
scenarios. Just wasp.
Well done.
I don't really do plan Bs, but I find this is why when I DM, I write kind of, in many ways, I could be seen to over-prep, because often you'll do the thing I'm expecting you to do, and therefore there's prep that I didn't need to do. But what it does allow me is that would not have been the end of the world. It would have been really sad that you didn't find the letter that I've had behind the DM screen for 3 or 4 sessions. But if I've got a map and I understand C-scale and I understand how C-scale works, and like readiness got added to it really late because I thought logically there needs to be a staging post, because you can't, like, otherwise you just have a weird, in times of peace, you just have a weird queue forming for all these people to go. It would be like Ellis Island. It would just be all these people like queuing and registering to try and be members of the 40th Legion. And so once you understand the space that you're putting your players in, and you discover it more with your, so the I didn't have any of the taverns planned out. I don't have any maps for taverns and stuff, because at this point it's like, unless it's really important, it's a room. You know, it's rooms and books and it's rooms and beds and stuff. But if you can get a sense, if you feel really rooted in the place that you're describing and the place where your players are, and you understand the world, it's not that. It becomes very obvious how you could give your players different opportunities to do the same thing. I was saying recently to my wife that I've, in the last 2 sessions, now feel as confident running this world as I do running the world that I homebrewed.
That's amazing.
Because I remember at the beginning of this, you know, I've worked on that world since 2018, and we last played in 2023, so we haven't played for a year and a half now. But I really know that world so well, and I have another campaign also set in that world, but when the continents are slightly different shapes, and you could kind of drop me into a session of that now, and I'd be like, I know where everything is, I know what everything is. And when I was sitting down to write Reliquiae and create the kind of overarch, you're just racked by these things of like, oh, this is so shit. Like, this is so shit. This is so boring. It's so not fleshed out. I don't understand everything about it. But actually, it's such a lesson in just do it, just trust it and start it. And the story and the world reveals itself, because everything you do, if you DM the way that I like to DM, and that so far I've managed to on this, things that you do are going to affect the world anyway. Like, the world is changed as soon as you make decisions. It's like butterfly effects. And so, you know, there are so many things that have happened that I didn't anticipate happening that I made happen because Barabask.
Yeah.
Barabask is only such an important character because you didn't like him. Like, Barabask, you weren't meant to see Barabask again.
It's our fault.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you need an antagonist.
The best
So it's like,
villains are created.
Why not just
Like,
put,
Yeah.
you know, you've got much more of an issue with Barabask than you do, say, the Spider Prince, who you've met once.
Because it's so far removed from
You're
it.
so far removed.
Because honestly, and this is just me being petty, he was rude. And I don't, unlike
So were you.
Do you know what it is?
Barabask was rude,
You know
and
what-
he tried to kill us.
It's Voldemort and Umbridge. It's that vibe.
Yeah,
of Voldemort and Umbridge going like
yeah.
that sort of menacing, lumbering. And then what about that one person who you just go,
Makes your
I
life
know, we've all met that
people
person.
like
I know
you.
people
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you.
yeah.
You're really,
And I've now got to a point where I just feel like I know the world really well. And it's such a lovely place to get to. And it's just a really good reminder, like for just other DMs and stuff, that if you're doing homebrews, having already done one before, your new one will be you'll love it just as much as you did your first. You just need to be brave enough to stick players in it and let them fuck with it.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll get there. And it's just it's a really satisfying situation to be in that headspace now.
I really feel like C-scale was earned as well. It took us a long time to get there. We spoke a lot about it, and I think our feelings about it, and as the world and almost the geography of the land changing, getting to C-scale, it felt like when we turned up, it was like, that's cool, because we've been thinking about it for a while. We've been thinking about what the place that we're going to go to, the way that you divide, again, small stuff, us deciding to split up, and you guys going at the front and being able to have those conversations that kind of teed up a lot of the things that kind of worked out. And it's just how story just happens, and it happens primarily, well, not even primarily, entirely through character. Like, the world exists, but it's only viewed through our character's eyes. And so it's like how we choose to interact with that world. And And the more I'm learning is D&D is just an entirely character-based experience. Because
100%.
and that's so exciting, knowing you have this infinite world, but there are so many aspects of it that could be missed if it wasn't for the inquisitive nature or bad roles of our characters. Like, Radiant touches everything. It's like, if there's a thing, he's going to press it, and he'll go down the stairs first because he's like, you guys will save me. And it's like, and so, but that meant that, like, we were able to do all of this stuff, like, and then, the fact is, you have such a unique set of skills. You're going to be able to sneak into things. You have so much charisma. You're able to just convince people where we might not be able to. Like, we would be dead if it wasn't for you. It's like, how many times that, like, this, it's all because of our characters that we've been able to interact with this world in the way that we have, and it has absolutely shaped the story. Probably an obvious thing to say, but it's really struck me recently how our view is entirely based on what the characters bring to all of that stuff.
I was so ready for a moment or a plan change where we went down to that house and there was someone there, and just be like, and for Dolly, I was thinking, right, Dolly swings to the front and just is like, tries to charm at the front door while, you go around the back.
And see if you can
things like that.
Yeah.
You just sort of like thinking all the time, okay, well, if this goes sideways, who's got what that can do what?
What did you think you were walking into? Did you think you were walking into a little sort of cat burglary, or did you think you were walking into someone who was kind of going, well, I haven't taken anyone's...
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a little bit of that, and then there was...
no, you can't come in. Why would I let you come in? Like this sort of...
Yeah. And then I thought maybe there might be something, because, there was that other house, and I thought maybe there'd be some sort of like decoy thing going on with the houses potentially, or...
I've just got one on my map, so I thought I'd describe it.
Yeah.
At one point, I was kicking myself for not asking Aska to describe the person that stole the map, and I was like, I didn't even ask what they looked like.
I remember.
And now in hindsight, I didn't need to, because if it's the wasp, it won't matter anyway. Because
the good news is that if you listen to Clark's The Broken Pebble, it will explain a lot more about how the wasp moves around the world.
Yeah.
I'm just sad Seascale's all not quite as pretty as it usually is. I'd be like, oh, quite like a nice little holiday.
Yeah.
Someone brought this up, actually. I think it might be one of the AMA questions. I don't think it got asked, but it was about Harry's choice to set the entire kind of campaign in the winter, which is fundamentally pretty dark.
Yeah.
Like, you do find moments of beauty, and especially with, winter flowers and all that, but essentially, winter's a pretty miserable time to set something.
Yeah, it is. And I think it sounds really bad. I just never done it before.
Yeah.
And I just really liked the idea of... Do you know the film Men in Black?
Yes, that cult classic.
Yeah, spoilers for Men in Black. There's a bit where Kay describes he says when his wife left him, and he says something like it was night and it was raining. And to me, as a kid, that struck, like, I just loved that as an opening. It reminds me now of like Cormac McCarthy, and just like that kind of real sparse, like, he went to the door, it was dark outside, he went out and stood in the dark. Like, I really like that kind of thing. And I think the first thing I wrote something about like I go all the way back to session 1 maybe. I said something about pale again. Far, far below, at the foot of the mountain, the crumbled buildings of the city of Alvelion are just visible, pale against the snow that has sat thick on the ground since the first moon of winter. And I was like, I just liked that as an opening image. So I was like, I guess the whole thing's in winter now.
Yes.
Dolly to winter, no Dolly to summer.
Exactly. And then the kind of the deference feels like something that should happen in the winter. Like the instructions to keep, because winter's going to be a more dangerous time, perhaps. Like, that's when you go to the gods. That's when you need advice, more. That's when you'd have more time to study in the late nights of winter.
On the flip side as well, it means more mulled wine, hot chocolate, and hearth fire.
Which we are thoroughly enjoying.
It means sometimes we can go very cozy.
Yeah.
Very cottagecore.
You really do feel the need for a tavern, especially. When
Yes. Yeah. And I like, we've sort of hinted at it a little bit, but I really like the idea that Dragonborn are really into spicing things quite heavily. Like, everything's kind of got aromats, and everything's got some chili.
Flavour profile.
Yeah, that it's like the equivalent of when, certainly, like when South Asian and East Asian people come over and eat traditional English food, and they're like, it doesn't taste of anything.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong. When you then taste something of that,
It tastes of brown.
It tastes of the colours it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is yellow, this is brown,
It's
green.
like licking a Dulux colour chart.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's green. I can tell that's green. But yeah, so what, I'm trying to think what else we had this episode.
The black in the water.
Oh yeah, the black water.
Yeah.
And the fish.
And the fish.
Fish.
And so, because the sanctum is the first body of water that you've found that has been fed by a... I mean, this feels like a spoiler, but it's not because it's literally on the map. It's the first body of water you've reached which is fed by a river from the north.
So I'm thinking like it's similar situation to the blue water. But,
Yeah.
But the other.
But the other place.
You can say, I mean, you've been told about the other place and, the fact that it exists.
Yeah, I feel like the Shadowfell is almost like leaking in,
As well as.
and then
Feywild.
Feywild
Feywild,
is,
yeah.
and that's why maybe you didn't recognise that fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Like, we have ideas as players, and I think Radiant has an idea of as an idea, but I think that we have, and I think the audience have speculations about what that connection is. But yeah, I think it's so exciting that you have two very different coloured waters. You have one that is incredibly dark and smells quite disgusting, and it's got this sulfur. You kept saying sulfur, and you just know kind of like the pungent, obnoxious smell.
Like salting on the side.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, it just kind of like stings the nostrils. And
Formidable set.
yeah, that's a great quote. Stings the nostrils, and then you have always like an exciting, wild, crazy, blue from somewhere else. I like the idea that these potential worlds are just seeping into each other, and what a better visual image than water. I might be wrong, but it's very cool. It's very cool. I'm glad I didn't lick it. I was going to lick it.
I was sure you were going to lick
I
it.
thought you were as well. I love the idea of collecting the
that's a
whatever
good
the hell
idea.
comes out of it.
Coat your
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was disappointed that you didn't get higher than
I know.
But I feel like I always want to, I want lots of opportunities for you guys to roll. Rolling is really fun. And so, also, tell you what, a tiny thing that I really enjoyed was I let you DM a tiny bit. Were you aware of that? When you rolled a nat 20 on an encounter check, and I was like,
That's right.
tell me what a good journey
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like. And I'm increasingly keen on letting you guys sort of going, why don't you tell me what that looks like? We've always done it with killing blows.
Yeah.
But
And did Alex do it with a killer?
oh my
yeah.
goodness! You know what?
You didn't do anything, and then you got the kill.
You know
That's
what?
why. It's because I was like, I'm going to take so much
Yeah.
time with this because I've literally just poked around a cupboard and shot an arrow.
You know what it reminds me of? Like whenever Alex describes I's kills, it's very Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
It's like very like
Oh,
Antonio
yeah.
Banderas
Yeah,
Mask
yeah,
of Zorro,
yeah.
or like Puss in
They lean
Boots.
us from behind here.
Yeah.
Take a
No,
shot.
it
Yeah,
is
it's
more
like-
Puss in Boots. It's,
I basically is, but just without any of the charisma. Like, it's just
Yeah.
a little bit.
Oh,
fine. He's got a lot of
mechanically.
He has lovely high chairs and dresses and things.
He does.
so
He hasn't
makes
worn his
up
dress
for
in
it.
ages.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, maybe this is for off camera, but like, what did you feel when I said I want to create a cipher for I to learn to read?
That's fine.
Great, I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got.
Yeah.
You took some. Elwyn took some of the books from her
Yeah.
childhood bedroom. So there would be like a. I think I said like A
is for Alakash.
A is for
Is what
Alakash.
the book
A is
is
for
called,
Alakash
yeah.
is what the book is called. I should write that at some point. Actually,
Yeah,
we should do.
100%.
We should do a little.
Actually, there was a comment on the last episode, which would have been what's gone live? 18?
18.
And someone was like, have you just forgotten? And I was like, no, there just hasn't actually felt like a good time
Yeah.
where we're sat around a campfire. And
road.
the last time we were around a campfire, there was a conversation between Radiant and Dolly about reading and the joy of reading. And I said, I thought about it as a player, and I was like, that felt like such an inappropriate time to then be like, well, we're going to do some reading.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I
yeah.
just had to let it go because it would have felt very forced, even though I've been wanting to do it.
Yeah.
I also still have to wait for what feels narratively like it's going to fit gently and not being shoehorned in. So no, I haven't done it.
Ben talked a while ago about not wanting to be the person that proposes at someone else's wedding.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a I think it's a great way of thinking about it. And I think when you've got it's something that I think can be really difficult at certain tables, where people, out of sheer eagerness and wanting to join in, want to be doing all the stuff all together all the time.
This table is
We're a-
very conscious of
We're a
it.
very generous table. I don't think we have a dominant role player or a dominant personality. We have people who instigate and people who are more back-footed, but I don't think we have anyone who would run roughshod over someone else's moment, being like, actually, I have something to say about this as well. That was so pointed. I went, I.
Yeah.
Oh, Harry.
No, this is not what I meant. Because
No, when you say that, I actually felt really bad today about with going with Dolly, and I was like, I'll go with Dolly, but not if we're all going to go because I don't want to crush it. And then we could make decisions. Then you changed your mind, and I was like, oh, now I feel like I've forced you to change your mind. Then I felt really uncomfortable. I was like,
you
okay,
didn't
that's
force
my
me at
fault.
all.
I
No,
Similar
I didn't
thing, though.
like
didn't
it,
know-
and then
didn't
I
know
was
what
like,
to
oh
do,
shit,
and then-
now I shouldn't have done that. Like, I was being
Yeah.
hinted that I shouldn't have gone, but I also kind of don't always want to go to a tavern and drink.
Yeah.
And I feel like that
she's
was my other
changing.
option.
She's growing. Our Elowen's
No,
growing.
so I
She
went with
doesn't-
you to drink instead.
I want to drink in someone's house.
But then I felt like, oh, great, I've created a kind of uncomfortable moment where another player has had to compensate for me by choosing to not go.
No, but I didn't compensate at all. It's like I don't really care what I do, as long as I do something. And it's like I think at that time where I realised that I would be of no service going in that direction because we were all going. And I'm like, you know what? I can go and get some rooms for some people. And actually, that's an interesting thing. And sometimes I'll get to a point where I'm kind of going. Like we did it again when we were kind of making plans for what we were going to do, and I was like, "Guys, let's just go and do a thing."
Yeah.
Like I'm always just going to be like, I'm just going to do the thing and see what happens because like I like pressing buttons, and so I didn't feel like you did that at all.
I didn't feel that at all.
I mean, in
Because I just
no
wanted
way.
to, I wanted to protect Dolly.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So when it was like, I wanted to be in the room in case it was bad, but then when you were having that kind of conversation, it's not that I wasn't listening, but I didn't want you to feel like I was listening. So I got up and walked away, and then you're like, okay, so I've inserted myself into this situation, which as a player, I was like, I don't think I should have done that.
No, but as a
But then I was
player,
like,
it's quite
and now I
sad.
don't want to be stood over you while you're having that conversation. I want you to feel like I'm not there.
But it's still quite satisfying that, like, you know, that's some information that hasn't been shared, and now you have it. Like, whether you use it or not, you know it. So, like, it's, you know, that's more
And I think
interesting
that's
than nobody knowing it.
Sorry, I think that's life as well. You know, remember when we were at Castle Grenweird and you went off to find your brothers and I tagged along.
Yeah.
Same situation. Yeah.
It's the same. Yeah.
And also, it added to so much, which was you said, this is in Allo and Grenweird, and
Which you
Yeah.
never slip like that.
No.
It's-
And Doug got a good chuckle out of that. Like,
In fairness, though, you're Dolly.
yeah.
Like, this person already
There's
knows
no,
you're
there's
in for
no,
a penny, in
that's,
for a pound at this
there's
point.
no fucking way. There's
You may
no
as
way
well
that
just-
you're Pamela. Tam.
It was-
Yeah, you may as well
Who's
just be
Asuka
travelling
based
with
on?
all of them.
Who was Asuka based on? Asuka was originally going to be like much more of like a kind of wide, like a kind of wide, like a female wide boy. I don't know if wide girl is a phrase, but like it's going to be like
Not when you
like
normally
a proper
like to
sort of
see
like
me.
she was going to be like a dead wheeling deal.
think you were saying that.
She was going to be kind of
No.
based. She was going to be that sort of like more street smart and more like making deals. And then I decided I liked her being more. She's sort of based on what I imagine my friend's wife might be when she's in her like 60s. You know, just sort of like loves to host, loves people. She's kind of fabulous. And I've also never really put an NPC like that in front of you.
No.
I've not like. I'm very wary of making sort of archetypal masculine, feminine, and I'm very wary of like. Sort of kind of getting drawn into cliches, and to me, like the idea of like a sort of fabulous, quite sort of slightly camp and over the top. I didn't want it to feel like derogatory.
Yeah.
But actually, I felt like we'd just earned it, and it just also felt like someone who Dolly would want to spend time with. So it was more tuned into what I thought, kind of what I thought Aoife would warm to a little bit. And I came up, I think I sent you some stuff, and then I don't think I told you the stuff about how she doesn't age and she doesn't like age, but I came up with that much later. Just the idea, because again, that sort of just worked. This idea of there's a really heartbreak. I think it might be the saddest song ever written. It's a really beautiful song called "A Lady of a Certain Age" by the Divine Comedy, and it's very, very sad. And it's about a woman who married a man she never really loved, and now she just goes to bars and talks about all the fabulous things she used to do, and constantly tells people that she's younger than she is. And as the verses go on, she keeps claiming that she's younger, and people believe her less and less. And there's something really sad, just I think that's so sad about it. It's a really, really great song. And I wanted to do a version of that wasn't tragic. Of like a lady of leisure who has worked hard, done stuff, and now she's just absolutely living it up and has great stories and is great company.
Architectural Digest, you know,
Yeah.
like that sort of
Yeah.
kind of big personality with beautiful rooms and every little trinket and every piece of everything. On its own, it doesn't do anything, and then you put them all in the room together, and only these people can put these items in a room together in that way.
Yeah, I have a really dear friend as well who I've known for a long time, and he lives alone and is just. We lived together for a year, and he said to me, when we moved in together, he said, he was 40 at the time, I'm too old not to have nice things.
Yeah.
And so, 23-year-old me, we're buying like John Lewis plates, and it almost bankrupted me over the course of a year. But like, and he's someone who's very warm. He's a great host. He laughs really generously and easily. And I just thought, given everything we're going through and everything we're going towards, I wanted someone who gave that feeling at the very beginning.
But also, I think the juxtaposition then of her being so warm, so welcoming, and making Dolly feel so at ease that you were talking about things so openly in front of Elowyn. For then me and you to be looking at each other in that room going, do you think she's double-crossed us?
And I can't give an honest answer because, like, I would have hoped not, but I can't rule it out.
Yeah, but it was just that we just got too comfortable way too quickly with someone because they were just such a warm person. And it's like, shit.
Yeah, you were all like, we can trust her, we can trust her, we can trust her, because you wouldn't be wrong, and there's no reason.
I'm eating her bloody oysters.
No.
What an awful image.
Okay.
Of the chicken.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Who knows?
Is there a euphemism?
We haven't
stepped on.
No, not at all. But it felt like one. We haven't cut back there in a while. Right, should we roll you some polies?
Yeah, I think after that.
And I get to talk about my favourite bit, and I'm really looking forward to watching back the bit where I describe each place that the red ribbon went on the map, because that was the most gasps I've ever had from a table, and it was really exciting. And I really love. Are you a die short, Ben?
Oh, I just was like, it's such a small number.
Yeah, and I really loved that. I really enjoyed. What felt great was it felt like without Ben knowing I'd collaborated with Ben as well. And I've always wanted you guys to feel that the world is a reflection of choices you're making, and nowhere is that more apparent than in this ep. So it's really great. We are not going to get to where I wanted to get to by next week, which I think is a marvellous stopping point for us as we go into our break for the year. But actually for our audience, it won't be a break anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I'll just have even longer hair by the time we come back.
What hair it'll be as well.
What hair it will be. All of it. Well done, me. Right. Have we rollied? Have we polied? Have we added up? Who would like to go first?
I've got a very middling 63.
Oh, actually, a borderline poor 63, I'd say.
It's a very middling 68.
Oh, okay.
I got 68 as well.
Wow.
I'm still
Right, you
hovering
two now
around
need
that
to
70
be-
range.
Yeah,
Either side of us,
I feel like Ben's going to be lowest and Aoife's going to be highest. Ben?
You go first.
Aoife?
91.
91.
I thought I could have won it. I got 83.
Nobody broke 100.
Another rare ep when no one breaks 100.
I thought that was really bad.
Yeah, I thought
Listen,
90
you
was in the
saved
middle.
those big rolls for when you needed them.
Yeah, we did.
We
And
got,
as-
was it 5 or 6 nat 20s we
That's
rolled?
quite a lot now. 20
And as we always like
some
to
really
say,
high rolling.
as we always say, the dice have their own story to tell.
Dice do have their own story.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Action Surge. We have loved having you. You must come back next time. How else will you know how it ends? Until then, we will. Until then, you should. I don't know. Like have a glass of water.
Have a
sit
nice
down,
hot cocoa.
Have a hot cocoa. Maybe go for a little walk. Maybe play your favourite
Feel
game.
warm memories.
Call someone that you love and tell them that you love them.
Happy memories.
And
Happy memories.
what do I say now?
See you very soon.
Oh yeah, we'll see you very
baby.
soon. DMD, baby. Bye everyone. DMD, baby. I just feel like it's getting better and better.
Fluid.